Section 11. The Navy captain introduced himself. "Just call me Slate, my call sign," he said, trying to disguise a deep Southern accent. I'd seen him before. The man in the medical center. He appeared even taller in uniform. A Navy uniform. It had been many years since I had seen a Navy officer of his rank. A captain in the Navy is the equivalent of a colonel in the other branches of military. "Listen up, Woodman," he ordered, "and stand easy. What you're about to hear might be somewhat abrupt and unsettling to you." He looked down at a thick file on his desk. "It says here that you took college-level classes in Fortran 77 at the age of 13 and taught yourself C++ only a year later. You studied advanced algorithmic theory at LizCon Computer Systems under the supervision of Ruel Jones at the age of 15. You then designed a bulletin board system. You later hacked the phone system to provide multiple phone lines for modem communications for that BBS. Your mother said once that you were a child prodigy," he declared. "Well, sir, mothers say a lot of things about their children," I said, with an attempt at humility. He smiled. "Yes, they do indeed say a lot. After graduating from high school, you enlisted in the Marine Corps. Why did you do that instead of college?" he asked. I could have used the standard "to serve my country," but now was not the time for lies. "I joined the Marines to impress a girl," I said with a smile. The captain leaned back in his chair and laughed. "Didn't we all? It's not until later that we hear the call of the oath. You have heard the call of the oath?" he asked. "If I hadn't, I wouldn't be here," I said. He maintained his smile, saying, "It's not an accident that you are here. You have been reinstated into the Marine Corps. That means I'm in your chain of command. Whatever life you had before today is now over. Your old name and identity have been purged from the public record. As I'm sure the Padre has explained, from here on out, you will identify yourself and be addressed as the Woodsman. You probably have some questions. The Padre will be able to address most of them. He has been assigned as your special handler. He will be your liaison. You take orders from him, and he reports to me. There are over 3,000 personnel who work down here, some military, some non-military. Many are from the intelligence community. Only a handful know the nature of the actual project. You will be working with compartmentalized and highly classified information. Nothing is to be shared with anyone who is not specifically read in on the project. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir," I said. "So what exactly is my mission?" I asked. The smile on the captain's face faded. "I'm sure you've heard of the multiverse theory," he said rhetorically. "Yes, it's one of the theories that explains the double slit experiment and other quantum phenomena," I said, being only vaguely familiar with the concepts of quantum mechanics. The captain stared at me. "Well, Woodsman, as it turns out, it's not just a theory. We've managed to tunnel through many alternative universes and realities, past history, the future, even differential life stories of individual human beings. The data that we get back from these alternative realities is so complex that AI is required to interpret them. The data is so massive and complex, we developed a supercomputer algorithm to extract that information," he said. He explained it in a somewhat clumsy way, which indicated to me that he really didn't understand the technology. But that wasn't his job. He was the commanding officer of the facility, not a scientist. "Embedded in the cryptocurrency blockchain is a hashing subroutine to translate the encoded realities into something we can understand. Bitcoin is one of them, but I'm sure you're aware of hundreds of others. Most are fed into a specialized AI, which converts it into useful information. Of course, even the cryptocurrency experts out there in the world are completely unaware of the actual utility of what they think is just a novel financial instrument. Essentially, the crypto market is a massive global distributed supercomputer. And yes, we manipulate the crypto markets to fund its operation. We don't get a dime of taxpayer money. Not a single member of Congress is aware of our existence. The last thing we want is for some goddamn elected official to go on some crusade and expose what we do here." He explained, "You may already know you are an augment. You aren't the only one here, but we used a different interface for you. Instead of a single node, we used multiple nodes. This means you are essentially capable of true multitasking. If it works, you will be able to employ many algorithms simultaneously," he continued. The first generation augments became so obsessed with their own existence that many went insane. "Have you read much Nietzsche?" he asked. I nodded. "Are you referring to the Übermensch? The Supermen?" I asked. "Yes, in the beginning, they became so unbounded that their intellect far exceeded our top scientists in almost every way. Then things started to go sour. They formed a coalition and attempted to take over the entire facility. They even created secondary algorithms to manipulate the cryptocurrency markets. They made billions within a few months. We still don't know what they were going to do with all that money. Some still have the password to extract the money at any time. I feel I should warn you about the Augs. Some of them are exceedingly dangerous. The gunshots you heard in medical were to prevent an escape of an augment who had gone rogue," he said with regret. The 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer described the human condition in a rather bleak way. Among other things, he suggested that people are generally amoral, compelled to be civil only by threat of force. Some people go from one state of suffering to another, punctuated only by rare instances of contentment or joy. Some people distract themselves from suffering by inflicting a higher order of suffering onto others. Some of them suffer from this condition in ways that you and I can scarcely imagine. Any pleasures they might have are empty and superficial. Many augments have an intellectual, psychological, and emotional comprehension of their plight, which causes them to be far more sensitive to their awful existence. Nearly all of them are in a constant state of existential crisis. To one degree or another, some have gone insane. They have succumbed to the worst moral and diabolical tendencies of human nature. They are completely devoid of virtue, and worse, they have the intellect to carry out their desire to harm others with vicious precision and merciless cruelty. They are psychopathic Übermensch, Supermen. We keep most of them confined, but every once in a while one will try to escape. For obvious reasons, we cannot risk any of them getting topside into the general population," he explained with a tone of caution. "Why not just unplug them?" I asked. "We need them to act as a bridge between us and the ASI. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the cognitive capacity to communicate with the ASI in any meaningful or useful way. As it is, we leverage the collective computational capacity of the cryptocurrency blockchain in order to interrupt the output from the ASI. However, without the Augs, any sort of dialogue between us and the ASI would take decades, and we may not have that kind of time," he said. With only a hint of hesitation, I responded with only a nod. "One last thing. Some of the stuff you will be exposed to down here may challenge any religious beliefs or faith you might have," he said. "No worries there, sir. I'm an atheist," I replied. He stared at me for a few moments. "Is that so? Well, we'll just have to see about that," he said. I could hear the sadness and trepidation in his voice. "Anyway, welcome aboard the 9th USAP," he said in a nonchalant tone. "Now, go get some rest. You're gonna need it," he ordered. "Yes, sir," I said as I left Slate's office. The next day I woke up early, around 5. I got dressed in jeans and a white t-shirt and prepared my morning coffee. After a day of looking at code in the file folders and becoming familiar with the server architecture, I was in the mood for a more casual day of exploration. When the coffee was finished brewing, I went to the door to exit to the hallway. The door opened inward, and on the floor, I saw a brown paper package addressed to the Woodsman. I couldn't help a song from the movie Sound of Music intrude into my mind. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. The melody played in my head and caused me to smile as I picked up the package and brought it inside. I placed it on the kitchen counter. It was about the size of a phone book, back when they had phone books. I opened one side and slid out the contents. There were 2 leather-bound books of high quality. One was engraved with the title Kitab al-Mawuta. I recognized it as Arabic immediately. The other one was entitled The Gnostic Gospels. I later translated the title of the first book to Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. As I removed the excess brown wrapping paper, a small note fell out and read, "A little light reading in your spare time. Signed, The Padre." I marveled at the quality of the books for a few minutes. These must have been pretty expensive, I thought, not knowing just how costly they truly were. I began to read the Gospels first. I tasted the distinct flavor of raspberries in my mouth. The pages turned quickly. According to the text, Yahweh, the God of Abraham, is in fact the illegitimate or bastard offspring of a higher order of deity. One of the female deities, in a fit of female self-indulgence, gave birth to the creature known to us as both the Christian God and Allah of Islam. They are one and the same. He is both capricious and incompetent. He is powerful, but neither omnipotent nor omniscient. He has deceived mankind into believing in his benevolent nature in order to satisfy his narcissistic thirst for praise. For a variety of reasons, God is jealous of mankind to the point of hatred. In fact, so consumed with anger, he instituted the disgusting commandment of male and female genital mutilation, which we now know as circumcision of the male penis and the female clitoris. This is meant as a humiliation and symbolic castration for male humans and enslavement for females. The denial of sexual pleasure in many cases, especially for women. The text goes on to describe Jesus, and to a lesser extent the devil, as knowing the truth about the creator of the galaxy. Satan is the ultimate rebel against the ultimate tyranny. The devil, in fact, was not cast out of heaven, but rather escaped from the dominion of the evil throne. The Gospel went on to describe Jesus as not the incarnation or Son of God in any way, but just an enlightened man. He taught his fellow brothers and sisters on earth that they were under the dominion of a monster. But they, as human beings, through a twist of glorious compassion from the higher order of deity, had been endowed with the spark of the divine, which Yahweh would never have. This being the case, they could follow the example of Satan and cast away the horrible chains of God's great deception. It was that very message that ultimately got Jesus martyred, not for the redemption of sins or the claim of being Son of God. The text went on to describe the Nephilim, angels, the jinn, and any number of different creatures, both great and small, both good and evil.